You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options. Facebook.com/TheOptionsInsider or via questions at TheOptionsInsider.com.
Join us now for the expert source for inside information on the options markets. It's time for Options Insider Radio with your host, Mark Longo.
Welcome back to Options Insider Radio, the interview program here on the old network where we welcome on guests from throughout the world of options and derivatives and proceed to pick their brains for the benefit of you, the listener. My name is Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting, at least we hope so, Options Insider Radio Network. And if I sound a little different, if you hear some weird noises in the background, elevators, airplanes, all sorts of fun stuff, it's because we're not in our studio in Chicago. It's actually, we're on assignment here in our traveling studio here at the sunny Options Industry Conference in Miami, Florida. And I'm pleased to be joined by our next guest here on the program, good old Jim Toes, the president of the Securities Traders Association. Jim, welcome back to the Options Insider Radio program.
Thanks for having me. And I think you should probably just tell the listeners that is the roar of the crowd.
Roar, yes,
the
it's a standing ovation of all of our huge studio audience here.
Well, so before we get into it, I am bearing gifts today for you.
Oh, wow.
So I do have a gift for you, and it is pretty ironic because it is a tie.
I was just joking to you how I am pushing back against the tie movement in the world. So this will be symbolic of my stand against ties.
Yeah, so it is a cherry. It is a Washington D.C. cherry blossom tie. It has this is a great time of year to have it. And then, listen, I have so many of them in my room that I have been noticed to wear them as bandanas as well.
Allow me to describe it for the listeners. It's got the Capitol Building rotunda on it there, and it's got the cherry blossoms. It's a nice green. It is very, very stylish, sir. Maybe if I could have my arm twisted into wearing a tie on the panel this Friday, maybe this will be the winner, definitely, sir. So I appreciate that. Look at you, bearing gifts, see? Buttering me up already. That always works here on the old program. But let's get into it. You and I chatted last, I believe, right around the time of your big conference down in Washington. Now it's, of course, a few months later. We're here at the Options Industry Conference. So let's get started. What brings you here to OIC, Jim?
Well, I mean, this obviously is, if you're in the options space, if you're doing anything options related, this is the must-to event that you have to come to every year. It's probably, I attend a lot of conferences through the STA affiliates that they tend to have one every year. That's, around 20 of those events. But this one is always important. It's a great event, great networking, great content, and great people in the industry. So looking forward to learning, hearing a lot of the panels and a lot of the discussions and the content. And looking forward to a great, 3 days.
Obviously, STA, securities, is in the name. So the securities, the underlying is kind of your primary focus. But obviously, there's a lot of members of your organization who are very interested and active in the options space. So what are some of the initiatives you're working on with them? Yeah,
sure. I mean, that's a great point. I mean, our history is obviously on equities. That's where we kind of cut our teeth going back 85 years ago. But in the past 7 to 10 years, as our markets, asset classes kind of meld into one marketplace where, capital flows from equities to options to futures to fixed income. It's very important. You just cannot, our markets are so interconnected today that you have to be thinking about other asset classes like options. So the issues that I think we are focused on here, one is obviously, we have a big rule filing that was approved, and it's going to be in the process of being implemented, the Rule 606. That's just going to require some more disclosure around how retail brokerage firms, where they're routing their order flow, how orders are being handled. It's a little bit of it's a little bit of a lift if you're in the option space. It's a very big lift if you're in the equity space. But again, the two are interconnected here, so we want to make sure that there's consistency across it. But the second topic that we've been working on more, and this is in conjunction with SIFMA, is around the proliferation of strikes that we're seeing that exist in the options marketplace. So, I'm sure that you're aware that that we have around 900,000 strikes in around 4,000 products that have options on them, and we have approached the SEC, both SIFMA in their letter, and we wrote a letter as well, and there's going to obviously have to be a follow-up around this about just rationalizing how are strikes introduced into the marketplace. Is there a delisting process for strikes that have no open interest and don't have no interest in them and should be taken away? Because even those strikes, there's a cost to quoting those strikes and listening to them in the marketplace for pre-risk controls.
It's funny because the mindset, I think, for years, since I got in the business certainly, has always been more is better, right? Oh, more choice for the retail customer, more choice for the institutional end user, more. Bring them in, add them in, we'll figure it all out later. And then we're starting to see the other side of that now. We're starting to see the unintended consequences. More, not always better, particularly when you have 16 different venues multiplying all those strikes in series, but times all those events, times all of the different firms that have to quote and stream them. It's an onerous burden, I think, to say the least. So it sounds like you guys, are you making some progress on that front?
So like more is not free. So there's a cost with everything.
That's probably a better way to put it. More is not free. That will get people's attention in this business.
So I mean, what's been the response so far? Listen, so our ask to the SEC is to allow the exchanges to sit down and look at the OLPP plan, the options listing plan.
This is called plan.
Yeah, just called I know. And just because we do think that there are some, low-lying fruit type, solutions to rationalizing this. So the issue with the SEC is when you go to them to ask them to do something, it's like going to the fire department in your neighborhood to ask about, should I do weather stripping in my house, right? The SEC obviously it tends to be very reactive to problems in the marketplace. They investigate. But having said that, though, we do think that the solution here is right there at the touch. So we don't think that the ask is we're not really asking the commission to do much. So it's to be determined, but we do think that there is and this isn't the first time the industry has tried to address this issue, but we do feel that this is the first time where it is it's an effort that's being in conjunction with exchanges and all the other participants in the marketplace.
I hope this is a great initiative. We were talking about it with Ed Boyle earlier today, and this is part and parcel with something we talked about a lot here on at this conference, on this network in general for years now, which is what can we as an industry do to maybe try to help the market maker, the liquidity provider community, because they have been fairly decimated in recent years. There's not as many of them left, and the few that are there, they have to quote. It's an onerous burden to have to maintain these quotes. So it does sound like removing some of these strikes, removing some of the burden that's on them continuously is an interesting initiative. The one area where I'm probably not optimistic is just because look at the penny pilot, right? That has been around as long as the Options Insider has been around, over 12 years now. They're still calling it a pilot, and to my knowledge, they haven't really come up with any real methodology to remove things from the pilot. So if they haven't even figured out a way to do that, I certainly hope I'm wrong, but I'm not optimistic that they're going to make a lot of progress on strikes anytime soon.
Well, yeah. Well, so the answer to one question, like we would not touch this thing if this required a pilot. We're done with pilots, to a certain, and we're looking for other solutions other than just like do a pilot, like put on a play, all right? Because as the history of the SEC with doing pilots, yes, to your point, is not good, all right? Pilots do play, are at times are the right approach to take, the right solution, but again, to your point, unwinding a pilot is very difficult.
It's like a beta at Google. It stays in beta forever. Gmail, I think, is still in beta a decade or so later. Penny Pilot's still a pilot a decade or so. Now people say don't change it because then if you change it from a pilot, you change the name, then you can't go back and make changes to it, even though no one is making changes to it. So I don't know why they're so precious about that, but that's a conversation for another day, Jim. So it sounds like removing strikes is kind of the big options-oriented mandate from your firm. I thought your comment earlier was very interesting as well, because I think you're right. The notion of you could come in here and say, oh, I'm STA president, all I care about is stocks. Those days are long gone. If you're FIA, STA, whatever asset class organization you lead, you have to be cognizant and aware of what's going on in all these other areas and asset classes because they impact you. And also your participants, your members, there's very few equities-only members anymore. They all have to have toes in other areas. And so to just come in and just be laser focused on one area, I don't think you could do your job as well.
That's true, and even some of the associations that are out there, even like the larger ones, they do tend to put their committees or their responses tend to be siloed, and we are making a conscious effort to in anything that we do. How does this affect options? How does this affect equities? How does this affect ETFs? Before we hit the send button on any type of a comment letter or an article for that matter.
And speaking of asset classes, I'm just curious. I think I have to ask you this question legally as required. But one of the big asset classes we've seen a lot of growth in over the past few years, we've added new content ourselves aimed at this audience, is of course the crypto area. You know, is it a security? What is it? Who the heck knows? It's an interesting conversation. We could spend many hours debating that subject. But I'm sure this is an area that's a focus for a lot of your members as well. Do you have any initiatives and forays planned into that area?
Yeah, we do. So I mean, like you said, you can't pick up a paper without reading about it, and I think our curiosity around this, there's two things we're very curious around it. One is that as we see in our industry, and not so much limited to our industry, but whenever a new idea comes up, the amount of resources that's available within our nation to look at something. And even though the spending seems absolutely ridiculous in the beginning when you think about how big the market is, but it is one of the things that really kind of makes our economy as strong as it is. A new idea comes up, whether it's in financial services or travel and leisure or energy, the ability for capital to flood in there, the ability for thought leaders and innovation to come in. So this is kind of where we are right now, right? Because right now it is a pretty small market. And the amount of attention that it gets and the amount of capital that's being thrown at it is enormous, okay? Where we're kind of coming at this, we're coming at a different angle because we like to come in at different angles on this, all right? Where in our space in equities and options, there is an enormous amount of disruption from the job placement area, where a lot of people are still, because of technology, we have a lot of people who their jobs are being replaced and are looking for other industries that are more robust and are hiring. Obviously in the crypto space and also in cannabis are two areas that we've been reaching out to with that perspective of like, let's try to understand the space. Let's try to approach it from the angle of where are the jobs being had in this, and where is that cross? So obviously, there are some historical traders, people at STA who aren't going to understand the programming side of this, but this industry obviously is going to have a need for so many types of sales. A lot of picks and shovels have to be sold in this thing, and that requires skill set on it.
You're right. That's kind of been one of the more fascinating areas for me to watch. Obviously, we have a Chicago perspective. That's where we're focused. But just to watch that aspect of the space, which a lot of them, has been languishing, shall we say, for the last few years, as the exchanges have somewhat dwindled, the amount of opportunities available there have dwindled. A lot of guys who have very extensive skill sets have kind of been waiting for the next big thing. And then here, lo and behold, here comes crypto, lands in that space like a bomb. And it has been fascinating to watch people with many, many decades of extensive derivatives experience pivoting into crypto and seeing what they're bringing to the table. And also, it's kind of a little bit of a culture clash, to use the old Seinfeld analogy, the worlds colliding, right? You have the, shall we say, the anti-authoritarian crypto technology side, and you have the experienced kind of financial derivatives mindsets and how those two come together. Sometimes they clash, sometimes they elevate each other. That's been a fascinating area to watch as well.
It has been. I mean, and there's even clashes within the space of the people who were in first on this.
Yes. There's the diehard believers, the hodlers, never get rid of it. Yes.
And then the other ones, we'll call the other ones a little bit more rational-minded.
Let's just say there are a few true believers out there. It has been interesting,
God bless them.
Certainly to navigate those waters.
God bless them. Someone's got to be on the left guardrail.
Yes, yes, that's true. Yeah. Well, we're at the Options Industry Conference, but I know you guys are currently busy planning your big conference coming up. We were pleased to visit it for the first time last year, your annual market structure event in D.C. It's coming up, not soon, but pretty soon. For you guys, I'm sure from the planning perspective, it feels like it's tomorrow. So walk us through a little bit about the event, what you're planning for this year, who should really attend this thing, and what the focus of the event's going to be.
Yeah, well, the planning actually is a 11 months, 3 weeks in planning. We start planning the 2019 event like the day after the 18-1 ends. It's always on our mind. And as far as what we can expect this year, listen, we have some ideas as far as topics. I mean, we just touched on too. We will be doing something probably around cannabis. We will be doing something
the other contentious C. There's no shortage of contentious C's in the marketplace.
Yes, and crypto. That's right. There we go. Crypto. Yeah, the C's. Well, so listen. But there's always going to be the standard. Someone from the SEC to talk about their initiative, someone from FINRA, but there is still a good amount of room in the program to be doing different things on it. I think the thing that we're going to be, you're going to hear hear from us more as we go into the summer, is helping doing work around the event to help people who are in between jobs. Okay. We have a little bit of an effort, an offering out there that if you are in between jobs right now, if you could send us your name, and we will be, we're going to be providing 10. It's not just a complimentary registration, because to be honest with you, anyone who's ever called us up in the past, hey, I'm out of work, can I come down? We've always said yes. So that's one thing. If anyone's listening, if you're out of work and you can get yourself down to DC, give us a call. I'm telling you, there'll be a badge with the name on it. All right, but we've taken it a step further this year. One, we're trying to get out more proactively on it, and we're offering 10 packages to people who are in between jobs, and the package includes two nights hotel accommodations and a voucher towards travel. So it's a little bit more than that, because we really do think that that people who are in between jobs, these networking events. And content is really a great opportunity. It could be the difference between them getting the next job offer and them not getting it.
Yeah, that's a great initiative, because you're right. We have seen a lot of people out there who are between jobs right now. So I'm glad. I think that's the first industry association I've heard of that is offering something like that to really focus and laser in on that specific area of the space. So I think that's a great initiative. You guys should be lauded for that, Jim. I'm happy to hear that. And what are the dates of the conference again?
October 2 to the 4th, October 2nd to the 4th.
Is it in the same venue as last year?
Same venue. We will never ever leave DC. All right, it's too. I don't know how many years. I mean, I think we're locked down to 2022 down there with the hotel, but it's just too. The space is too valuable for us. I mean, what people don't fully appreciate is that most of the work that we do down there involves dealing with staff members, whether it's a staff member in Congress or the SEC or FINRA, and those folks don't get out of town that often. So when we can come down there and they can attend the event, it is very helpful for those relationships.
Yes, it is market structure, and that is still where a lot of that is decided down there. So you are in the mecca from that perspective. And just to clarify, going back for a second, if people want to reach out to you regarding those packages, should they email you? Is there a special place?
You can email it. Yeah.
How should they go about it?
Yeah, listen, you can email us. We have a link that if you email us at STA@securitytraders.org, we'll send you the link where you can sign up for it. But you were very excited about it. I just think it's the right thing to do. Listen, and again, I don't want to make this sound like a lot of associations, like I said, do this. So they do it quietly. We just want to get more out there. I think it's fine to get out there and be proactive, because to let people know it's available to them.
It's a great thing. That's what the association is for, right? To keep the industry and keep the group flowing. So if you can give back to that, I think that's a good thing. So we touched on the conference. We touched on what you're doing down here at OIC, which is an interesting event. But let's leave our audience with a little bit of a hint, Jim, a little bit of a tease of what they can expect from you guys in the coming months. Maybe it's an exciting thing you guys are working on for the conference. Maybe it's a new initiative you have up to your sleeve, Jim. Now is the time, sir. The floor is yours.
Well, I guess the initiative is that this initiative that we have with people in between jobs is going to be something that we originally were looking to roll this out maybe in January. You're going to hear more from us in the space on this. Our efforts that we will be doing to help people who are in between jobs. It was an announcement that we were looking to make maybe in January, and given the response that we've gotten just on this one little effort, you will hear more from us about it over the summer.
It's maybe like an STA networking and or career fair type.
With a couple of partners on it, with a couple of people who have stepped forward to help out with the effort, a couple other, maybe one or two other associations to help take a leadership role on it. But we are excited about this, about what can be done and the response that we've gotten from people who want to help.
That's fantastic. That's a great initiative. I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that soon, and hopefully in the meantime we can go check out this conference coming up in a few months, Jim, which I'm looking forward to coming and checking out again. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing how that initiative and all these other initiatives, the strikes and everything else, plays out in the marketplace in the coming months.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/The Options Insider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.